Good morning, fellas. Do you ever go, I need a second screen? I do, very frequently, and I presume many others. That's why this little guy was born. I love all different types of Nintendo DS's. The Nintendo DS Lite, Nintendo DSi. What the fuck is that? The original DS model from 2004 was presented by then President Nintendo of America Reggie Fils-Aimé. He showed the first prototype model and it was the looker of the system. Did it get any better? The DS was a very weird handheld. It had a touchscreen, it had two screens. Nintendo was taking a risk with the system and they had to prove themselves and the Nintendo DS that it was a revolutionary new handheld. Why the f did I think this was a good design? Alright, the first model of the Nintendo DS released in North America and Japan in 2004 and in Australia and Europe in 2005. It was a 64-bit system and it was certainly better than the previous handheld, the Game Boy Advance, who only had 32 bits. The 64-bit meant that the DS was the first handheld of Nintendo that could play real 3D games on the go. You could argue that the GBA already kinda did that. But could you really? The fact that Nintendo made the DS was already kinda bizarre because the first Game Boy Advance was just released 3 years earlier. To show off capabilities of the new system, Nintendo showed that it could run a version of Super Mario 64. That would become the launch title Super Mario 64 DS. The title doesn't feel at home on the DS because you have to control it with the D-pad. Believe when I say that controlling a character in a 3D environment with a D-pad is not fun. But I can tell you what's even more not fun, controlling a first-person shooter with the D-pad and the DS. Because what also was a launch title and a console packing game was Metroid Prime Hunters First Hunt. I mean, the game works and the controls are what you expect from a DS first-person shooter. But why did they bundle this one with the console and not Mario 64? If you play a bit of the game on the DS, it's still very difficult to get used to, but I think it's alright for the DS. One of the biggest games for the Nintendo DS in the first 2 years was Mario Kart DS. This Mario Kart may be my favorite Mario Kart title of all time. I think it's mostly nostalgia, but also the game is very good. Just listen to the title theme.
Here we go!
That's a banger. Sorry. That's a fucking. The game was really a step up from the previous game. Mario Kart Super Circuit. Just look at it. Bam. Much better. And the cool thing is that there is a track of the original 2004 model DS in the game. I like that Nintendo does this sort of stuff. Alright, enough about the games, let's talk about the system. I think what Nintendo was going for was a very futuristic handheld. It looked very alien. It does not look like one of the DS or even 3DS systems. It does have a few similarities with the Game Boy Advance SP. The select and start button and the A and B buttons have all the same fonts. Also the exact same Nintendo logo is on the top of the system. The upgrades from the GBA are the extra X and Y buttons. Also you got a second screen. And also a microphone for some reason. Alright, to be fair, you can use it for example with Nintendogs. But every time when I call fucking Maxwell, I say it like 100 times and the thing won't just fucking listen! Also a cool thing about the handheld that it has backwards compatibility with the Game Boy Advance. I like that you get the option to choose if you want to display the GBA game on the top or the bottom screen. Alright, let's look at the operating system of the original DS. First of all, the startup is great. Then we go to the home menu. You can turn the backlights on and off. I never saw someone in my whole life playing their DS with no backlight. But it's nice that you have the option to perhaps save some battery life on a long trip. Then you have PictoChat. Oh, PictoChat. PictoChat should get a 100 on Metacritic. You can just chat with people who are nearby. It sounds like a dumb concept, but it's actually super fun. You also could not only type, but also draw little messages. And if you want, You could draw just something for yourself with nobody in the chat room. Just doodle things to kill time. One very dumb thing about the operating system is that every time you go to a system setting or into PictoChat, every time you do that and when you leave, the whole operating system shuts itself down. Then to the right of PictoChat, there's also a great feature, Download Play. Download Play allows for people to play with you via local wireless multiplayer for free. They didn't even have to own the game, you were going to play with them. I think that's a very consumer friendly move and good move from Nintendo. They also did that with 51 Worldwide Classics on the Switch. Right there you could download a multiplayer edition of the game on the Nintendo eShop and you could play all the games with each other and only one person has to own the game. Exactly the same thing with Download Play. The only difference is that you download the game from somebody's DS and not from a shop. Because the original 04 model of the DS didn't have an eShop. You can also set an alarm, alright, who the f cares. And you have a calendar for if you forgot which year you were living in. There is not something very cool in the settings to show you guys, but what we can do in the setting is change my birthday to today. And listen again to the startup sound. Also one other complaint, the brightness of the screen. In the dark you can see very fine, no problem at all. But when you play, for example outside in the shade, you can't see shit. Overall, I think I like this model of the Nintendo DS. It's ugly and I like it for that. And also I think the design is very iconic but not that recognizable because many more folks had the DSi and the DS Lite. It's an alright system. If I had to choose which DS system I get from the DS Lite, DSi or the original DS, I'll go with the DSi. It's a bigger upgrade compared to the DS and the DS Lite. But for the collectors, the original DS is a must-have. The Nintendo DS was, after the PlayStation 2, the best-selling video game console with a whopping 154 million units sold of these little guys. But just only 18 million of the 154 were the original DS. That's all I had to share about the original model of the DS. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Good night, fellas.